that kind of a performance and sat on their hands. Thank you for that. My first word is one of appreciation to the session and the Reverend Mark Lewis for this invitation to share in your 153rd anniversary service. It's a privilege to participate today on this anniversary in this historic church. It's a special pleasure for me to share with you, Mr. Panbaker. You mentioned that you're Elder Emeritus. I'm Elder Minister Emeritus, and we were ordained in the same year. He is an elder, I as a minister. We're now emeritus. I trust that you know what emeritus means. Out of it, and justifiably so. 153 years. What stories could be told of the history and events of this congregation over that period? Stories of hopes and plans. Stories of those who settled in this area over a century and a half ago. And while battling the elements and other problems as immigrants in a new land, determined that a first necessity in their community was a church. They came with memories of faith communities from the lands from which they had come. They erected a building suitable to their needs. Almost like the Israelites in exile, they could identify with the words of the psalmist, "How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land?" Well, they answered that question by banding together and building a church where they could sing the Lord's song in ways that they knew. They felt comfort in what was familiar, the scriptures, the Sabbath day, the worship, the songs and the paraphrases. How many changes have there been since then? How many times has the older generation used the last 7 words of the church when a change was suggested? Do you know the last 7 words of the church? We've never done it that way before. It's often the younger generation who express that the old must go simply because it's old. The past is a liability, and any change must be for the better. Parents and children are frequently faced with the struggle of the new and old. The generation gap, as it's come to be called, often lifts up those issues. On the one hand, you have a generation bamboozled by the desire to change things that don't seem to need to be changed. And on the other side, you see the younger generation seeing hope and new possibilities if the old could just give way to the new. It's an issue in families and in church families. Traditional ways of worship are being challenged by new ways of praise and service and stewardship. And yet we struggle to hold fast to old traditions that are comfortable to us. But yet there are winds of change calling for new methods and meaning in the witness of the church. We just experienced some beautiful new music. Were you all happy with all the new hymn book when it came out? Here's a quote from a church musician writing about new music in worship. He wrote, "There are several reasons for opposing it. One is too new. 2 is often worldly, even blasphemous. The new Christian music is not as pleasant as the more established style, as there are too many new songs. The new music creates disturbances, making people act indecently and disorderly. The preceding generation got along without it. That seems up to date, doesn't it? It was written by the hymn writer Isaac Watts in 1723. Old and new. Traditions to keep and traditions to get rid of. These discussions are alive and well in the life of the church today. For those who would be faithful to God, both within the secure walls of the church and in our lives beyond the church, we need to respond to the call of Christ in every generation. To hear the old word of Jesus calling for new life through the new covenant. In the life of this congregation, St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, Kitchener, over the past 153 years, the faithful people of God in this community of faith have faced many difficulties and many changes. If the bricks and mortar of this building could speak, what stories they could tell.